Yeah, hello, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com playing World of Tanks. This video is about the test server, or the common test server. I'm going to explain to you what it is and why you would want to use it. When they release updates to the software, there's always an internal testing. It's typical you have something called a dev server, you have something called a staging server, and you have something called a live server. The dev server is what the developers use. And when you have a dev server, it's up to the developers to ensure that their code is current, because at some point they're going to wipe it out and start fresh and clean. So they have to make sure that if their code is good, it gets into the staging code or into the live code. If their code is bad, at some point they're going to probably reinitialize the dev server. What you do is you take the live server and you copy it to the dev server so that they have a copy of the live server, and then they make their changes to it. And then the staging server is what they call the common test server in World of Tanks speak. Staging server is something where it has all the dev code in it, but it's not live yet. And people go and test it out, and they can figure out if they like the code or not, and make changes to it. And then if the staging server, once it's perfect, they push it out to something that's called the live server, which is the game that you play. Now, the reason why they have the common test server, I want to start by saying anyone can play on the common test server as long as you have an account created on the day that they create test server. What they do is they take the live server and they're going to copy it to another server, which includes all the accounts, the database, all that information, all the user information will be copied over. If you have an account on that date that the user database is copied over, then you can log into the test server on that date. You can log into the test server once it's released, and they do make that announcement. Now, one of the advantages of using the test server is that you're going to get unlimited gold and unlimited silver, unlimited free EXP. It's not really going to be unlimited, but it's going to be such a large amount that it'll be difficult for you to spend it all. The first time I got in the dev server, I researched every single tank in the text tree. I wanted to see what would happen if I researched every single tank to 100%, and I had enough free EXP to do it. And I did it, and there was no bonus, or I don't think there was even a notice that said you researched every tank, or maybe there was. But I did research every tank on the test server just to see what it was like. The good thing is you can play any tank in the tech tree on the test server as long as it's in that release of the test server. So if you want to play a T95, you click on T95, you research it, you'll have the free EXP, you put your crew in, you train your crew, and then you get into a game with the T95. One thing that you will notice is that most people play tier 10 tanks on the test server. But if you try playing a different tier, you might not be able to get into a game, and there's not as many people playing on the test server. It's not like the NA server where you're going to have 60,000 people on peak usage, or 50,000 or whatever. Or on the EU servers, they get 100,000, I think, or more on the peak usage. Okay, so you can also play unreleased tanks. There might be a tank that has not been released yet, and you can play it on the test server. For example, this is the T28 Htc. This one is this is a tank you have to earn. On the test server, you would also have to earn it. But if there's something new that they're adding, and they say, okay, this tank is going to be on the test server, you can go out and you can try it without risk, without paying for it, without paying for the research, etc. The other thing that you can do is that you can play tanks that you might want to play at some point in the future. For example, I have the T28, which leads up to the T95. I believe I've played the Tortoise and the T95 on the test server, but I don't really remember. I'm pretty sure I played them both. And I did it such a long time ago, so I got to try them out, and I kind of know what they're like. And then you can make a decision. You could say, well, I want to know, should I play this tier 10 tank or this tier 10 tank? Try them out and then figure out what path you're going to take on the tech tree. So you get to try out tanks that you plan to buy or research in the future. The other thing you can do is you can test expensive setups. I have everything decked out. I've got 133 tanks. They all have, for the most part, I'll give you this as an example. You can see they have 4 or 5 crew members. They've got coated optics and vents and gun rammer, large repair kits, 30% APCR. You can test out different loadouts that might be too expensive for you to test on your own. And in some cases, you can do your own crew members, and you can test out different skills on crew members. For example, Eagle Eye. You might want to see what Eagle Eye is like, so you can go on the test server, get a commander, give him Eagle Eye. I only have it on one crew member. Out of 133 tanks, I have Eagle Eye on one crew member. So that's an example. You can test out different skills and perks before you have them in your actual setup on your own machine. And so what happens is when people play on the test server, they're all going to be playing with gold rounds, APCR, and they're all going to have well-equipped tanks, and they're going to be playing a lot of the best tanks in those games. You can play specialty tanks. For example, something like a T95 or a Tortoise, it's a very unique tank. It's unlike any other tank in the game. And because there's over 400 tanks and you don't have a lot of time to play, I've been playing for 3 years, I still don't have a Tortoise or a T95. So you get to play tanks that you may never get to play. Even if you play for years and years and years, it might take you 30, 40, 50,000 battles to play every tank in the game. Another good example, in the tech tree there is a tank called the TVP, and I've played it before on the sandbox server, and it's a wonderful tank. It's absolutely, the TVP T50 51 is a wonderful tank to play, but look how far I am. I'm only on tier 7. It's going to be perhaps 2 years before I get up to that tank. So you get to try out tanks that might take you years or months before you can research them on their own. And you can go through all the tier 10 tanks, T110E5, T110E3, T57 Heavy, Sheridan, the Mouse, the E100, the E50M, Jagdpanzer E100, the FV215B, FV4005. These are all wonderful tanks. The Foch 155, the Bat Chat, AMX 13105. Maybe you want to play autoloader with SPGs, the Bat Chat 155. So there's a lot of tanks in the game that you can try out that everyone else will be trying out. Those specialty tanks that are just a little bit better and a little bit more fun to play than those other tanks. The other reason why you might want to play on the test server is because it's international. You're going to have North American players, EU players, Russian players, and players from the Asian servers. And there's going to be a lot of Russian servers. And I was actually surprised. I chatted with some. It was very entertaining and to hear players speaking in Russian. I didn't understand a word that they were saying. But there's a lot of Russian players that are eager to reach out, for example, to speak to a North American player. They actually were very kind and polite, even though they did not speak English. It was very entertaining listening to what they were saying. The other thing you can do on the test server is you can test tactics and strategy, be very aggressive and risky without it affecting your game. You can take out something like a T49 with a derp gun that does massive amounts of damage, run around and blast people, and perhaps, die in the first minute of every game, and it's not going to affect your stats. Or you can take a E50, which has a reputation for ramming, and just go around and ram a bunch of tanks. Or you can take a Type 5 Heavy, put those high explosive rounds with a Type 5 Heavy, and just wander around blasting everything. I tell you, Type 5 Heavy, that's one of those tanks that's absolutely fun to play. The other thing you can do is you can try out a premium tank, such as a Jagdtiger. You can try it out before you buy it. I'm just going to give you an example. I have 94 premium tanks. I purchased almost all of them. Some of them I won. And 94 is a little bit too many. I can't play all of them every day. I can play more than half, 75% in one day. I play each tank only once per day. But you can go to the tech tree, and you're going to have a ton of gold, and you can pick a premium tank like the M4A1, the FCM50T, the AMX CDC, and anything that's in the tech tree on the test server, you can buy with gold, even if it's a premium tank, and you can test it out. And you can put in great crews, great equipment, use the APCR rounds, so you can play some aspects that you never got to play before. Okay, so that's a little bit about the test server. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.